So the official FOIA or FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request has gone in to get the video footage from the trail camera of Richie spilling out. Speaking of police today, there was a time in the past where I had spoken to some police officers and they mentioned something about going in the pond, or I think I brought it up, and like them diving or something to that effect. Has anybody gone in there, found anything? So anyway, they started telling me a story about how they had a couple divers out there one time, and there were these floodlights, and right away I'm asking, well, did you have any malfunctions? Did like the lights turn off on you or something like that? And I remember them being a little spooked, no pun intended, and they didn't really want to finish their story. One of the officers was kind of like trying to shut up the other officer. So I'm like, that's kind of fishy. What's going on with that? They don't want to continue with talking. And, fast forward, I'm digging through all my stuff that I've saved over the years. Sometimes I have miscellaneous folders. And in one of them was from an old Yahoo groups where scuba divers came out because there were a couple phone calls. And it's a little strange how the story that this person posted on Yahoo groups is like starting to match up a little bit with what they were talking about. Can't say for certain if it's exactly the same situation, same incident. But according to the person who had posted this material, they were part of ESDA. It's an emergency services disaster thing. And I don't know how many ESDAs there are, but Illinois, we got ESDA. Anyway, so because they got a couple of phone calls, apparently, they thought, well, this is warranted. Let's get a dive team out there. So they brought the floodlights. They brought a boat. So there were two vehicles. Cook County Sheriff's was already on the scene. They didn't want to go diving because the water was murky, as we all know from when we visit here. We can see how dark it looks. So yeah, you're not going to see anything. So they got in the boat. They're going around, and now I'm just recalling from what this person had posted. So I don't know if all this is entirely true, but it certainly seems like this is a very true story. And eventually they spotted this one area they wanted to check out, because after the floodlights had turned off, the generator's off, lights are off, they're in the dark. So now they got their portable lights out, and everything's kind of quiet, and they hear this bubbling. Now I know we do get some methane release from a section closer to the cemetery out of the pond. And sometimes you can actually hear it, not just see it. It's kind of cool. So when you spot that, try to get some video of it. Wish I did. Anyway, so they're heading towards this noise, because they're there searching for somebody who has supposedly fallen in, right? And as they're getting closer to this spot, their handheld lights go off. Okay, that's a little too coincidental. What's going on with that? And at one point before this mysterious event had taken place, if the malfunctions are mysterious enough, it's getting pretty windy. Maybe you'll even hear some trees cracking. It's pretty cool when it happens. Anyway, so it gets suddenly cold, and they say they could see their breath. And I don't remember what time of year this took place, but anytime you're kind of warm and you start going through a sudden cold area out here and you can see your breath, you should take notice. It does happen. I probably might even have some footage of it happening. I'll throw that in if I can find it. And so this mysterious light just bounces out of the water, right? But doesn't splash, doesn't do anything. And it's supposed to be green in color, and we do occasionally get the green ones. And this light decides to, zip around the trees, go across the cemetery. It gets near the entrance, it starts turning blue. And we all know there's a mysterious blue light that appears out here. And this blue light, just takes off into the sky. Quite an interesting story. Is it true? I'm thinking it might be true. I mean, some of the lights that are out here, the mysteriousness of it is that they sometimes come out of the ground. Now, of course, you got people like, it's the dead spirits. Not so fast. We know that these lights are coming out of the ground, going into the ground, and it does not just happen in the cemetery. So anyway, you got to keep an open mind about this thing. But why did that light not splash either? What's with the cold stuff? I've had experience here and outside here in my personal life where there have been incidences where things got extremely cold, and these would be like indoors, and something would happen. So out here we've had, you know, like small incidences where let's take the girl who was touched. Okay, I'm sure I could dig up that video. Now they're going through their thing, they're trying to call out the spirit of Dora Newman or something like that, and suddenly it goes cold, and you can hear them saying, "Oh, it's so cold." And then there's this shirt movement. I wouldn't think much about the shirt movement, except that there's this whole thing at play when you got certain scenarios. There might be something to it. So some people were kind of like, "Oh, well, ghosts don't have hands. They don't have anything. They can't do that." Okay, well, we just want to focus on these weird scenarios where all of a sudden you get this cold, and then suddenly we have this, usually a physical interaction in the environment. There's some sort of science at play. If you start just basic and simple with this stuff, I think it's a cool thing to investigate. You know, don't let your mind go too wild at first. Try to get down to the bare minimum. What's causing these cold spots? We know occasionally that some of these cold spots do not register on thermometers, but yet people feel this freezing cold. What's that all about? Now, reading science literature, I've come across stuff where certain high levels of certain types of negative ionization can feel cold on the human skin, even icy cold. There's got to be some science going on. So where's all this ionization coming from if that's the case? Anyway, I just wanted to recall the story of, you know, the scuba divers and the little conversation I had with the police. You know, even though there's like these little things that are out there, there's probably something to it, and we just need to pay attention to it. Well, no crashing trees today, no fun fireworks of the sounds of the thundery trees crashing. Oh well. So that's the story, that's the situation, that's the information, and I'm sticking to it. Enjoy October 2020, and I hope you get to experience something mysterious.
During its second night at the cemetery, the crew experienced a different phenomenon, this one literally chilling.
That night, it was at least 50 degrees, and I remember it was warm enough where we had actually taken off our coats for a while. And whenever I've heard people talk about cold spots, I never really knew what they meant, and this is always when they're talking about apparitions and ghosts. And there was at one point in the cemetery where all of a sudden the temperature just dropped. And I remember picking up the camera and taking a shot of Ron, and you can just see his breath like it was the middle of winter.
Yeah, I can see the picture. That's great. Right here is really close to the picture of this area. I can see that pretty good.
A little freaky that you walk. We were basically t-shirts coming in here, and like right now we had to all kind of cold right now. You can see it.